This episode of the podcast is brought to you by LeafWell. Hello, listeners of Cannabinoid Connect. Have you ever thought about getting a medical cannabis card? The process can be intimidating and difficult to navigate, to say the least. That's why I've partnered with LeafWell, the easiest and most affordable way to get a medical card in Texas and in 32 other states in the US. LeafWell seamlessly connects you to a network of doctors that will help you get certified online in minutes. LeafWell is run by data scientists, cannabis specialists, and patient advocates that are passionate about increasing access and education around medical cannabis use. LeafWell's patient support team is also there to support you throughout your entire journey using medical cannabis. As I mentioned, I've partnered with LeafWell to provide all my listeners with a discount to become certified for medical cannabis. Simply go to their website at leafwell.com and use the promo code CCTX to receive $15 off the price of getting a medical card. Again, that's leafwell.com. Use the promo code CCTX to receive $15 off the price of getting a medical cannabis card. LeafWell only charges if you get approved. So what do you have to lose? Visit leafwell.com today. Use the promo code CCTX to get certified for medical cannabis, risk-free. What's up, Mac?
How's it going, Kevin?
I am doing well, my man. I am, the day's ending, and again, I've said this before, this is my therapy, to talk with all of you experts in the industry and just learn and learn and learn, because there's so much to learn in this industry. So happy to have you on.
Well, I'm always excited to talk about cannabis. And like I said, I'm a loyal listener to the pod and excited to be here.
Awesome, man. Well, the privilege is all mine. And I first want to start with a very, very important question, Mac. And that is, what's your favorite apple? Favorite kind of apple?
I mean, it's kind of obvious, right? It's a Macintosh.
There you go. Boom. Answer solved. And for those listening, the reason why I asked Mac that, if you don't know already, is that I believe, your family is, it's 100-plus-year-old family run apple orchard, which is Beak and Skiff. And y'all have actually pivoted, and now they're the owners within Beak and Skiff have now funded and are operating in the cannabis space. So
Yep.
yeah.
Actually, so Kevin, I'm actually not a family member, but I'm
Okay.
lucky enough to work with the great families of the Beaks and Skiffs. But yeah,
I thought you might have been like a distant cousin, or I don't know, but I'm glad you clarified that. So tell us a little bit about the history of Beak and Skiff, and what made the company transition. Of course, the obvious is the opportunity, but what are some of the overlapping operations that you saw there?
yeah, sure. So I'll kind of give you a little backstory on Beak and Skiff. You kind of highlighted it, but it's a 111-year-old family-run company in upstate New York, right in outside of Syracuse, New York. At our core, pun intended, we're an apple orchard, right? So we sit on about 1,000-acre apple orchard here, and we were just an apple orchard for up until like the 50s or 60s, but quickly realized that just being a wholesale commodity grower just wasn't sustainable. So recognizing the need to innovate, the previous family generations created the first, one of the first pick your own operations, which is still to this day a fall destination spot for most upstate New Yorkers. In the 70s, they continued to innovate and started pressing fresh cider to make fresh cider. In the 90s, continued to innovate and taking that fresh cider and began fermenting it, turning it into apple wines, hard ciders, and spirit-based from apple ethanol. So it's all about innovation here. Even though, again, we're a 100-plus-year-old company, it's not a status quo model. It's always trying to innovate and, not be afraid to fail.
Well, having that legacy, that's kind of the whole mindset that you'd have to make it that long, 100 plus years. That's a century. So innovation is essential.
It is. And how, why cannabis was an opportunity we were really focused on was actually back in 2018, we saw the rise of CBD beverages coming on the market. And today, what Beak Skiff is known as an apple orchard, we're really a premium beverage manufacturer. So we have 3 different beverage facilities here, specializing in everything from obviously fresh cider, hard ciders, canned cocktails, cold brew coffee, kombuchas, and so forth. So we thought the next evolution was doing hemp infused beverages. At the time, when we talked to our lawyers about if this was allowable for us to touch, New York had a small window for people like ourselves to apply for a hemp grow and hemp processing license in the state. So we did so, and then in 2019 started growing hemp and built our hemp extraction facility. One thing that's kind of unique about our extraction facility, it's ethanol based, but we use ethanol that we make at our distillery right next door. But the ultimate goal with getting into hemp was to make hemp infused beverages, and leveraging our expertise and experience with beverage making and bringing that into the hemp and cannabis space.
Let's talk about that. Let's dive into those parallels, because I mean, we kicked off the episode with me kind of joking about what your favorite apple is, right? But there's a lot of different cannabis strains as well that are grown certain ways, cultivated certain ways, taste differently to the consumer who's familiar with those particular strains. So tell me some of the overlap and parallels and how maybe seamless that transition was.
Well, I like to make the analogy of when we're making fresh cider, right? We're not using grade A apples to do so, like the apples you would buy at a grocery store. Just what we're doing is kind of taking the waste or the byproducts, the sort outs, right? Or the trim, right? To make a value add product. And that's really what we kind of are trying to do with cannabis. So, focus on taking people's trim waste from their cannabis and then turning that into value add products such as beverages, vapes, or edibles. So that was kind of the similarity there, is just taking a waste stream and turning it into a value add product.
Got you. And does that process involve like whole plant squeezing or extraction, where like you're using all the plant and the nutrients? I know you mentioned ethanol being included, but what does that process look like in terms of the squeezing or extraction?
Yeah, I think it comes down to more we actually when we grow, we're not growing for grade A smokable flower, right? Because everything we're growing is going into ethanol extraction. So we are still doing some trimming in the sense that no stalks or stems are going into the extraction, but anything that contains cannabinoids will run it through our ethanol extraction equipment.
Got you. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, sorry to get us off the rails there a little bit, but I was curious about that. And so getting back to, I guess, to the birth of Gen V Labs, right?
Yep. Fifth generation.
I was wondering what that meant. Okay. Got you. That makes sense. Who came up with that?
Not I, definitely our marketing
team. Got you. So what is Gen V Labs focused on now?
Yeah. So, well, when New York legalized last year, right, one thing they did that's somewhat unique is they are implementing a 2-tier system. So meaning there's no vertical integration. You're either on the production side or you're on the retail side.
Super interesting. Yeah. I can't wait to see how that plays out. Yeah.
It is. And so for us, we thought, okay, we already have the infrastructure for the manufacturing, the extraction. We're going to go all in on that side. And we're also going to really, again, leverage our expertise and experience on the beverage side and focus on that category in New York heavily. Long term, that's our big play, is cannabis beverages. So right now, we just built the largest cannabis beverage facility in the country. It's overkill in terms of capacity needed for New York out of the gate, but it's something that we think we will need and grow into in the next 5 years. So having that scale today is important.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I mean, that's powerful. The largest, cannabis beverage facility in the country, maybe the world, right? So it seems like that's what New York is really doing. A lot of the operators, these businesses are just basically preparing, getting ready for the day that the state goes online with sales. So that's really what you guys are doing, right? All this prep work, getting the facility ready, getting it established.
Exactly.
Is there a lot of trial and error right now in terms of like just testing and seeing what you're able to do from a fulfillment standpoint, or?
Oh, a ton. Well, one thing that, again, is kind of unique to New York is that, so as a licensed hemp grower and a licensed hemp processor, we were able to apply and get awarded a cannabis cultivation and cannabis processing license. And the processing end, we get to utilize the exact same facility and equipment that we've been extracting hemp with for 3 years.
Wow.
So
So that's a
literally,
huge advantage. I mean,
the day we got the notice that we could start extracting, I mean, within 24 hours, we were extracting cannabis. So we were jumping right into it. And yeah, I mean, it's a little bit, you're being a little bit more cautious with cannabis extraction than obviously hemp, right? Much more valuable product, but we could use all the learnings from our 3 years of hemp extraction to make sure that we minimize the mistakes out of the gate.
right, right. And the actual beverage itself, is that where the Ayrloom brand comes in? Is that what is branded for the beverage?
Yeah, so Ayrloom is going to be our cannabis brand, and we're going to have a few different formats. Again, like I said, our long-term focuses on beverages, but we also think there's a great opportunity and need to put some fast-acting edibles and high-quality vapes on New York shelves at the gate. So we're really focusing on those three categories. Really just extract-based products. That's what we specialize in as a distraction, and then creating those value add products from that.
Right, right. Well, I want to get back to and talk a little more about this pre-existing experience and infrastructure that you have in the beverage space and how it helps you produce these value add beverage products. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, we so like I said, back in the 70s is when Beak Skiff first got into beverage making, but I would say we really ramped up in the 2000s. So our alcohol brand called 1911 established. We have a hard cider line that's distributed in 26 states, but that really took off kind of around 2010, 2012, and we built a very large canning facility that specializes in, again, alcohol, NA seltzers, coffees, teas, all that kind of stuff. So again, leveraging all that experience and all the mistakes we've made with canning and beverages and bringing that knowledge to cannabis.
Right.
So I think that's the thing that's unique here, is that we're true beverage operators getting into cannabis. And I think the beverage category is kind of in a category by itself in terms of the expertise needed to do it at scale, quality, and correctly.
Yeah, I mean, I've observed that from the outside, and I've talked with operators, especially like even in Texas, that are on the hemp side with CBD beverages. And man, the R&D process and like everything that goes into the flavoring and the taste and making sure like that it's on trend, right? Like what people are accustomed to tasting in terms of flavors. So when you say that you're a master in that category and you're applying it to cannabis, that's a huge leg up, because there's a lot of cannabis operators that are pivoting to the beverage industry. And again, that process is pretty new if you're not familiar with it, right?
Yeah, I think, again, knowing what flavor houses to work with to get that taste profile you want, understanding how to produce beverages at scale, but maintaining consumer safety, top of the mind. I think that's a big challenge. But one thing for us is also why we felt confident getting into cannabis infused beverages is we were able to make the first certified organic CBD beverage in the country. So we did that 2 years ago. And we've had great success with that. And we saw that we could make a truly like stable cannabis or hemp infused beverage. I think that sometimes you hear that people saying that potency in beverages degrades over time. But what we found is if you can really dial in the manufacturing processes and the quality controls, you can give the customer the same experience, whether that can is drunk right off the line or 6-12 months later. And that's really our goal here with cannabis beverages in New York, just high quality, consistent experiences to the average consumer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, consistency is super important, especially within cannabis, right? I mean, like you mentioned, the potency, dosage, how much is in there, and so on, and the taste, of course, which ultimately matters. Uh, not that this question matters, but I am curious. So, because Beak Skiff has such longevity in its brand and such legacy, being operating over 100 years, like we talked about earlier, what was some of the feedback from the customer base when there was the decision to pivot into cannabis? Right, again, it doesn't matter because you guys are obviously doing a great job in that space now. But what was the feedback?
It's a great question, Kevin. To be honest, when we first started talking about hemp, this is 3-4 years ago, we were even nervous then just to associate Beak Skiff with the plant. Just fear of feedback. Some backstory: when we introduced our alcohol products to our retail campus that we have here, our pick your own operation, there was a lot of blowback from consumers. Not wanting to bring alcohol into a family-friendly environment. But what we found is, well, we lost some customers, we gained a lot more over time. And we really took that same mindset with cannabis and we're going to put our stake in the ground, try to break this stigma and say Beak Skiff, 100+ year old companies getting into this. And, again, we may lose some customers, but ultimately I think we're going to gain more in the end.
Amazing. I say that because it takes a lot of guts for a brand to really pivot, especially like the owners who are probably so set in the company's ways, or the message or the image or the brand persona they're projecting. But like you talked about earlier, I mean, and how we agreed, operating for over 100 years, you have to innovate. And I think that we're seeing with, the majority of the population, 92%, either for medical or recreational cannabis throughout the country, makes sense, right? I mean, and there is options to go not the THC route, like you talked about, with the CBD and those types of beverages. So I think it's a great step that y'all have made. And I love that you just took that leap of faith to attempt to start to normalize the plant, because I think more companies need to do that.
Agree. And we have seen a lot of local support though too. It's amazing what you hear now from customers that have come to our orchard every year, who now are writing emails to us talking about how the plant has helped them so much, and they just feel comfortable talking about it. It's a great feeling, and again, we're just excited to be able to supply some really great products to New Yorkers, our true customer base, day one.
Right. Well, you've definitely persuaded me. I can't wait to try your CBD beverages. I'm gonna have to go online and order me some. So
Yeah.
I want to ask you this, Mac. What's your relationship with the plant? I mean, is this fairly new to you as well, entering the space, or did you consume prior?
No, I was I'm a longtime consumer. Have been since before college, and no, I've always used it more as like a wind down remedy at the end of a long day. And I was extremely excited again when the Beak and Skiff family was willing to get into, this industry because again, it meant so much to me and I can relate to it. And it just fueled the passion to really make sure we're producing the best products out of the gate.
Yeah, that had to have been a serendipitous moment. You're just sitting back. Maybe it was like a all hands meeting or team close team meeting, and they just say, "Hey, we're thinking about entering the cannabis space." You're gonna be like, "This is awesome. I'm never leaving this company." Right? I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, we got two of the three vices. We got alcohol and we got some great cannabis products coming up, and so we're it's a very fun company to work at, and it's always good to create products that you can see consumers, purchase and enjoy. Right? I think that's just the real reward.
Yeah, that's the rewarding part at the end, exactly, and especially if it helps people who may have ailments or would rather choose another alternative besides alcohol to relax.
Yeah.
So that's great. Well, as we wrap up this conversation, Mac, I want to ask you to switch gears and talk more broadly about New York. I understand you're the co-chair of processing and manufacturing for the Cannabis Association of New York. So, sitting in that role, I mean, what are you seeing in terms of the movement, the progress that's being made? Last I talked, I had some couple of guests on really heavily involved in New York, and they're talking about licenses still being issued and how that was kind of playing out. So what's going on in New York at this point?
Yeah, so I'm not sure when this will air, but I have to imagine by the time it does, you're going to see that New York has already issued its first round of retail licenses. I think New York, it's easy to point fingers at New York regulators for taking their time with this, but I think what people need to realize is what New York's trying to do is different than any other market. In this two-tier system, while it's new in cannabis, it's the norm in alcohol. It's actually what we're used to in alcohol, right? And one of the benefits we see of it is that a two-tier system allows small and medium-sized brands to survive and thrive. I mean, we can speak firsthand from being a hard cider brand, a very small one to start, that we would never had a chance if manufacturers owned all the retail. Right. So having that separation, while there definitely is challenges, it does allow for the end consumer to have more quality choices to choose from. And I think that's the main goal of New York with this two-tier system. So it takes time. But again, I think by the time this airs, we'll see the first wave of retail licenses issued. I'm still hopeful that this calendar year we have a handful of retail stores open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know this is easy for me to say because I don't live in New York, but I think it's good that they're slow rolling this out and they're doing their due diligence because, I mean, there's a lot to unpack with cannabis legalization, right? I mean, at the state level, let alone at the federal level. And it's not like it happens overnight with this kind of stuff. So the fact that New York is taking their time, I think is positive. And I agree with you. I mean, the two-tier system, it does give the small to medium-sized businesses more of a chance, right? To your point, like there's not a not monopoly of these larger MSOs coming in and just kind of taking over. I wonder, like, what is the rationale of New York to do that? Is it really to fight for the little guy, or is it to position New York as the cannabis state, like above California, or is it both? Because I wonder when federal legalization happens, that could open up the floodgates with interstate commerce, right? So that would kind of complicate that when it comes to the state of New York.
It would, and I won't go down the rabbit hole of speculating how federal legalization rolls out, but I think the overarching goal of why the two-tier system is being used in New York is to create a healthy, competitive marketplace. And when you look at CPG categories where you have competitive markets, ultimately the best products survive and the customer benefits from that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Totally.
that's really
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. No, I believe that wholeheartedly. And you get a variety of different products, right? I mean, we talk about like I want to live in a world where, I have the option to go to the mom and pop or the craft cannabis company, right? Really specialized, or that variety I think is what's exciting. And in some ways, while I know federalization, like legalization will happen, we don't know when, of course. I mean, I'm enjoying this time, right? Because you're kind of hitting up different destinations. You fly into Vegas or you fly into New Mexico, you try Espiritu or you try these different brands, right? And it's like, it's
Definitely.
really enlightening because you can kind of see what's out there.
Exactly. It's similar to kind of the craft beer movement, right? So you have all these small, really great brands in different pockets of the US. You get to go out and try when you visit.
Right, right. Well, I mean, that's the world that I want to live in, and I can't wait to visit New York once it goes online to start, trying out all these different products and see what's out there because it's going to be huge. It's going to be a massive market, and I'm sure that that and you're excited for it. So, Mac, I want to leave the floor with you, man. I mean, is there anything that we didn't cover or anything that's really top of mind for you that you want to leave the audience with before we wrap up?
No, I think just to build on what you said, I think we're all super excited for New York. We all have high expectations, and I can't wait for everyone to try the amazing products coming out of New York soon.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Mac. Where can people find y'all's website, social media, if they want to learn more about Beak Skiff or Ayrloom or Gen V Labs?
Yeah, sure. So you can go visit our website at beakandskiff.com. And then you have our new cannabis website, Ayrloom, and that's AYRLOOM.com. Yeah, you should be able to find all of our amazing products on the website and our backstory of who we are.
Awesome. And I'll be sure to drop those links in the description box for YouTube as always. Well, Mac, thank you so much again, man. This was fun. And I'd love to have you back on, when things really start moving in New York and you guys start to see some real traction with sales and growth.
I love that, Kevin.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mac, again. And thank you all for listening. Bye.
Thank you.